Go to school.
I think...
Go to school, kid.
I mean, I think you're right. We are living in the golden age of information.
At least information.
Because you're right. You used to have to, once a month, read whatever publication. I remember even me, I remember, this is not so long ago, I would go on Harmony Central and I'd go on the gear page, but I'd still go to Barnes & Noble and buy whatever. There was a European guitar magazine. I forget what it was. It was before Premier Guitar was even really doing print stuff. Yeah. Every now and then I'd see a print version. They were just starting in digital stuff. So what year was that? Who knows? But there was not Guitar Player, Guitarist. Guitarist is the English one. Yeah. And their magazines were so much better than I felt everything else out there. Yeah. They were really...
And even just the ads in the back, the half back of the magazine was just all ads for pedals and pickups and all that. And that's the only way you learned about anything.
Somebody bought me like 30 old guitar magazines from the 80s. They're amazing. What I'll show you.
Cool.
The products are ridiculous. Yeah. Nobody has this stuff.
That's funny.
All the guitars are pointy and pink and green and yellow. Yeah. All the hair is huge. But
I've got a Steve Stevens cassette tape that was free with Guitar World magazine. So like Guitar World had the little thing, you had to fill out this little card or whatever. Remember they also had the little vinyl, the thin vinyl records and stuff. But this was Guitar World according to Steve Stevens. And I've still got it in a box somewhere.
Yeah. He's sort of an eternal figure in the Guitar World, isn't he? Yeah. He really isn't ever going to go anywhere. Because there's like videos of him last month.
Oh yeah.
Probably on Premier Guitar.
He's just a really cool player.
And now, I mean, look at that. Cassettes in the mail attached to a magazine.
Oh, yeah.
To the same content really being available on your phone always. Yeah. You know what I mean? Maybe probably way more content, way more in-depth, way more direct.
YouTube.
It's amazing.
There's nothing you can't find on YouTube. I mean, there may be something, but...
Right.
I want to learn how to play this song on guitar, and there's 50 different versions of it.
Right.
So
you just can't.
We didn't have that when I was a kid. We'd had to sit there and drop a needle over and over and over and over.
Right. Probably learned a lot that way.
Tried.
Probably more than people learn on tabs and how-to videos these days.
I don't know. There's some kids that are just amazing anymore.
It's really true. Well, hello there. My name is HW, and thank you so much. This is
Michael Britt.
It's back again. It's back again, guys.
Coca-Cola.
The Coca-Cola Kemper. King Michael. He is back, and we've got new mugs because the last time you were on the podcast, the mug situation was really not very thought out, and people just couldn't get over the mugs.
I know.
So we're probably gonna have to get some custom mugs for the future, but
our friends at British Audio have stepped up and
they've sent us some mugs. And by sent, you just went and picked them up.
Yeah. I was picking up my Kemper from the shop anyway.
Right. So. What happened to it?
Just the Ethernet jack on the back went bad.
Did you get the mod?
I did not, but I'm probably going to get that eventually.
You should get the mod. I'm supposed to go in there and get it.
Yeah. I just had a gig last week, so I was trying to get it done. I asked him which would take the less amount of time, and he said just replacing the board. So,
well, this is a good segue into the plug before we get this out of the way. This is both the Tone Junkie today's podcast is brought to you by the MBritt loaded Kemper and the Tone Junkie loaded Kemper. Probably the best deals in the Kemperverse, both available at British Audio. And they're free profiles for the cost of a normal Kemper.
Right.
I mean, it's the same mat price. It's the lowest price you can get on a Kemper anywhere, and on a new Kemper.
Yep.
And there's free profiles inside.
Free profiles.
It's amazing.
You pick.
It's really amazing.
It is pretty cool.
If you're going to buy a new Kemper, it'd be foolish to buy it anywhere else.
And if you are in the Nashville area, they actually do servicing on the Kemper. They're an authorized service center.
They do. And I bet, pro tip, if you bought one of those loaded Kempers, you could probably say, listen, I'm on the fence, but if you throw in a British Audio mug,
probably.
I'd be willing to do it. I don't know how many mugs they have actually, but now there are 2 here, and that is wonderful. This is cool. We were just talking about this before. Just people's reaction to the podcast, to YouTube.
I remember being really tired on that previous podcast.
Yeah.
I'd just gotten in town or something. I don't remember. I was kind of wiped.
You were a little sick. You had the anthrax, I think.
Yeah, the anthrax.
And it was. But people are into guitar speak, and it's so much easier to get now. I almost wonder I wonder how it affects people's like playing development, having too many easy resources in front of them.
Well, there's that whole option paralysis thing,
Right,
and
right.
now there's just option psychosis is what I call it. Because I mean, I've got so much gear at my house, and I'm always trying to make presets for the different devices and make profiles and find new real amps, to play and profile. It's maddening sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm selling a lot of gear.
I mean, I'm constantly in a state of
right
stuff. I've got a stack of stuff going out, and always looking for stuff to come in.
I'm always. I mean, obviously we amps are always coming in and out and stuff. We're always checking out stuff, but I feel like I can't even get to know guitars anymore. There's too many guitars sitting around.
Yeah.
Or I just need to commit to not playing some for a while.
How do you do that?
I don't know, but the problem is I sit there and I look at a guitar on the wall. Like I've got that gold Sparkle Jet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, gosh, like 3 weeks ago, I really liked that thing. And it was awesome. I should pick it up and I should plug it in.
Mm-hmm.
But, then there's something else that needs attention that gets it. You know what I mean?
I have that. I mean, when we go on the road, I can usually take 4 to 5 guitars at tops.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a fly day, usually only 2.
I mean, how do you survive with only 4?
Well, I'm just saying, that's just what fits in the bus bay.
Right.
But when I got my racks, at home, just with really great guitars, I've been really lucky to have acquired some really nice stuff. It's like I can't decide which. I know the first 2 that I'm going to take, but after that, it's just like, how do I pick the next 2? And looking through our set list, what will fit on this song, and what's new that I've gotten that I haven't gotten to play out yet, and all that stuff. So
right,
it's just first world problems.
It's a first world problem for sure.
Yeah.
What we talked about expensive guitars on the last podcast. Are expensive guitars worth it? We threw out some names and stuff. There was John too was on the podcast with me. What do you look for? Like, well, first of all, what are you playing these days? What's the main guitars? I think we know the ones. Some people know the ones we've seen, but you've got a couple new ones that.
The Tom Andersons I've had forever. And I've got a hollow T that I do most of my profiling with, and I've got that red Cobra with the 3 P90s.
Right.
I've also got a drop top with a HSS kind of setup, but that one doesn't get used as much. I don't find those guitars as useful.
HSS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if I want a Strat, I want a real Strat, not a fake Strat.
Mm-hmm.
But those are my main 2. I've got a Sewer that I got that Sewer carved top standard with 3 P90s, S90s, or whatever. So that my 2 P90 guitars are my main 2 that I have to take on the road because they can cover anything in our set. And then I've started getting these exotic guitars. I think I brought the Strat over last time.
You did,
so I've got 2
Great
Strats
guitar.
and a Tele of theirs now.
Yeah.
And the necks just feel really nice. They look and feel like you're playing old instruments because they're beat up and relicked really nicely. But they feel when you're playing them, there's no dead frets. It's a nice modern radius, stays in tune, nice hard frets. They're not all dinged up like a vintage guitar.
So when you have to take 4 or 5 guitars, what are the guitars you take on the road?
I'll usually take one of the Strats, the exotic Strats, and then the Sewer and the Anderson. And then my 4th one is always my wild card. And I've got the Zamitis that I got recently, and then I've got a Les Paul that I love. I've got an exotic Tele that I'll bring out. I just picked up a Gretsch hot rod from a buddy. Right. And hot rod Setzer. And then I've also got
Have you taken it? Yeah.
The 335 I just got too. So
that's what I was going to ask you. Have you taken that on the road yet?
I have. I used it on a couple of the Christmas shows.
You were just telling me you put a doozy.
The less trim.
Less trim too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I had it on a different guitar, but it was in my way on that guitar. The 335 is just a little bit bigger, and it doesn't get in my way because that the big post that holds the arm, the bar arm, it's a big round thing. If the bridge is too close to the tailpiece, it kind of gets in your way of your hand. But other than that, it's really nice.
So Danish Pete recently did that, and then we saw a guy on the Kemper Facebook group that did that, and now you've done it. It seems to be a trend.
It's just a really easy way without having to put a bunch of holes or extra stuff on your guitar.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to buy the extra Vibramate for it like you would a Bigsby to keep from drilling holes.
Just drop in replacement, huh?
Yep. It's kind of nice. And it's really fluid. And
the tuning's good and everything?
It is. I'm having a little nut binding issues, but I can fix that.
Well, eventually. It's a Gibson.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Well, the strings have to cut so hard to get over to the tuning peg.
I know.
Yes.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. Other people don't seem to have that problem, and they have a similar headstock, but I don't know.
My Fender was smart when they lined them all up with the nut.
Do you ever find that with the Gretches that they...
Yeah.
Yeah, they do the same thing.
My Gretsch has locking tuners, which actually helps a little bit.
Right.
And the original ones with the 0 fret, those are actually that was a good design, actually.
I have a...
And I love that the open strings had the metallic fret sound instead of the duller nut sound.
Yeah, so I have one with the 0 fret, and I do kind of like it. And I don't think I've had... Before this, I don't know that I've owned a 0 fret guitar, but they're definitely really cool. The Gretsch stuff coming out of Japan is, to me, like some of the best bang for your buck, especially in the used market. I mean, you can really, at $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, there's a bunch of great Japanese-made Gretsch
the Hot Rod Sets are Japanese ones. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're awesome, you know. Of course, there's some that go more expensive, but there's a lot of models that sit in there used, you know, that you can find on Reverb that are killer. So all those guitars you're saying, none of them are $5,000, $6,000 guitars.
Just my Les Paul, and only because all Les Pauls. If you want an R9 or R8 or anything like that, you can't pay less than $4 anymore.
So, but even your Tom Andersons, south of $3,000?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I've paid around $2,000 for most of them.
Right.
I buy most of them used anyway.
Right.
So.
And the exotic, same thing. Even new, those are what was it, 25, 20? Yeah. So you know, used, you'd get under that.
To me, that's right in the ballpark. You're getting a good hand built, you know, hand carved, but you know,
American made.
You know, spent some time on it. You know, you're not going to have fret sprout cutting your hands or just weirdness on the neck. That's my biggest thing. I have to have them all work.
Right.
There can't be any dead frets or bend and fret out and weird stuff like that.
This is sort of the topic that has come up before. Like, what are expensive guitars worth it? Are $4,000 guitars worth it? Are $5,000 guitars worth it? And I think we have a similar opinion where there's really a sweet spot around the $2,000 range, whether it's new or used. The sort of 1900 to 25, 26. There's really just a plethora of like amazing instruments available, and I'm not sure what you're getting when you pay more, other than very subjective things like, I like this neck radius and this color, so I'm willing to pay more. But in terms of just straight up like quality, build quality, playability, maybe pickups, it seems to all be right there.
Yeah. And I've seen some, now there's getting to be some $1,200 and $1,500 guitars that I think are just as good as those. You know, as everything starts moving more to CNC machine cut, you know, they're getting more precise on everything from guitar necks, the way they're cut, or bodies. It's not like it used to be when it was just like doing it by hand and you could really tell the difference. Yeah.
I think cheap stuff is great too these days.
Oh, yeah. Like you can get better guitar for $500 now than you ever could.
Yeah, absolutely. Even $300, I feel like there's a lot of stuff in that range that, like, for $300, it's like, I mean, if you like this, it's fine. You replace the pickups and, you know, maybe it doesn't have it's not perfect.
Right.
But it's totally playable, you know? You're definitely in the realm of, like, skill now matters, not the quality of the guitar.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It should always go back to that. I mean, I remember the first time I saw Jack Pearson playing his little Squire Strat around town.
Right.
I mean, that thing is legendary now in Nashville, but, you know, it was a $200 Squire Strat. Right. He changed pots and pickups or whatever he changed in it, but at that point it becomes the guy playing it and not the parts.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not a better guitar player.
Is he a good guitar player?
Jack?
I'm kidding. Watching him play slide in standard tuning, he had like some videos with, he's like teaching a class, he's like doing a clinic or something, playing all this standard, you know, playing slide. I shouldn't even say he's playing slide. He has a slide on, and he's sort of equally playing slide and not slide, and it makes you want to quit the guitar.
It really does.
It really is like,
his touch is just incredible. Like, it looks like he's just barely touching the strings, and he's just making all this music and stuff.
And he just, you know, looks like a dude next door. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and then he makes it look so easy. and it's like, there's a couple people who, when they play, to me, it's like, nah, that's not the instrument I play. No. That's a different instrument.
Guthrie Trapp's the same way for me. God, that dude. I love watching him play because it's like the good kind of just having your mind blown. Right. Like, I just can't do that. Yeah. I know I have to work so hard to just stay in tune, in key. I can't think about going out and coming back.
Right, I was going to say, he goes out a lot. He knows
what he's doing. You know, he knows, I'm playing a diminished thing over the 5 here. You know, it's like, I don't. Yeah. Sure, okay, go ahead.
In some ways, I think like Eric Johnson is the like if Guthrie is let's go out and come back in every way we can, then like the opposite is maybe like Eric Johnson, which is like let's stay in every way we can, but make it sound like we did something else.
Or let's stay in and play every note really fast.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about the phrasing. It's like I'll play all the same notes you are, but just phrase differently.
And he does that whole 5-note thing. I don't know if you've ever watched Doug Rappaport's videos. He kind of cops the Eric Johnson stuff.
Yeah.
And he nails it. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
These guys are they're way better than me.
I had this experience sitting down with one of the guys who's in the videos a lot, Desi Cerna, and he teaches guitar, and I always say he literally wrote the book on the fretboard because he wrote a book called Fretboard Theory. so
did write the book.
But the guy is like a classic rock jukebox. I mean, just like call out a song, and he just knows all from Kiss to Zeppelin to Chili Peppers and Soundgarden, like all over the place into 90s rock and stuff.
Yeah.
And we sat down and we put on the Kemper a fuzz and a chorus. And he played the parts from Smells Like Teen Spirit with a fuzz and a chorus. And that's what that solo is. And then he instantly went into Eric Johnson. And both of those tones sounded like those two artists.
Huh.
It was all about the phrasing. I mean, it was all about you know what I mean? Now, was it the most nailed 100% Eric Johnson tone? No. But immediately I knew that sound. Just from the phrasing, just from the fuzz and the chorus. You know what I mean? They're part of both those sounds, but the playing is so different.
Well, I love copying sounds off records. And I've had emails and I've even tried to copy, how do I get a sound like this person or whatever? So I've tried to do it and get close or whatever.
Right.
But at some point, the sound is almost not important. The tone, I hate to say it because that's what I do most of my life is create tones, but it's honestly not that important.
It's true.
The most important thing are the notes that you're playing and the phrasing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's where they say, I think that's the thing when they say it's in the fingers. Mm-hmm. I've always understood that, it's not really in the fingers. There is some difference to how hard you press, or maybe you're pulling the note out of tune, but really it's all that strung together in your phrasing and your playing that makes it sound like.
Well, I saw a video of Joe Satriani playing on some kid's little $200 guitar playing Surfing with the Alien. Sounded like Joe Satriani. I mean, it sounded like the part. You can tell it probably was a line 6 amp or whatever. It's the tone. It matters to a point that you have to have the right amount of sustain, the right amount of gain, sort of. And after that, it's all kind of the tone could change. Somebody's live tone could be different than what they had on the record, but you're not going to notice that. And you're not going to say, that sucked live, unless it was just awful.
Right. It's a good point. Tones in the fingers, not in the Kempers.
Well, and the parts. The notes are really the most important parts. Is what notes are you playing?
It's true.
So,
who would have thought music comes back to the notes? We've been worrying about gear this whole time.
I know. I should learn some notes.
We should learn how to play the guitar. That would be a really useful exercise. Okay.
I'm working on that, actually. One of these days, I'm gonna.
Let's talk about the Kemper. I had a video that came out a while ago, and I want to get your take on this. So I did a little video, and it seemed to really help people. All of the content has been out there before. All the content has been in Tone Junkie videos. You've written about a bunch of this stuff in the blog posts. You've posted about it. There's been other videos. How to dial in profiles. My thing is I try to tell people there's a bunch of great parameters. You should get into them all. I try to break them down. But for me, the 1, 2, 3 is definition. I look at it like this. I always start in this order. First, I adjust the definition control. I feel like I get 80% of the way there. Yep. Then I do the EQ. I feel like I'm somewhere around 90 to 95% there. Then maybe I'll do a little high shift, low shift. And that's only if I'm playing. And that's, to me, that's most important if I'm playing a something like, to me, the Tone King, Tone Queen Falcor free stuff I have in the Tone Junkie free pack. It's like one of my favorites, but it's a little bit of a small sounding amp.
Right.
And if I want to make it a little bigger, shift the lows down instantly, it's not so 110, 112-ish anymore. So that's number 3 is maybe I use it sometimes, maybe I don't.
Right.
What do you do?
Same thing. I mean, start with the definition, then EQing. And the only time I ever touch the speaker controls is if, so you've got a rig that you're turning the definition down to make it not as shrill and bright for single coils or whatever. But what you're doing is also, like we said, is you're bumping up that low end. Well, if there gets to be too much of that, then I'll take that low shift and just turn it up a little bit, and it shaves a little bit of that back off.
Yeah.
So it's to me, it's all about balancing. It's all balance.
Yeah.
Like you got to make sure your highs aren't hitting everybody in the face before your lows are, or it's not too muddy.
Right.
And I love a big, healthy mid-range. So it's all just you're trying to balance these things. And you're not trying to get flat. You're just trying to get them to where they audibly sound even.
Yeah. One question I get a lot from Kemper users is like, what adjustments are you making guitar to guitar? I personally am not making a ton of adjustments guitar to guitar. And I think maybe one of the reasons for that is I buy a guitar, I use it a lot. When the next guitar comes in, I almost require that guitar to sound good with all these rigs that I've built, or else I tend not to like the guitar so much.
That's the same thing.
So what kind of changes are you making? Are you saving? Do you have profiles specifically for one guitar or for another?
No, I tend to spend most of my time changing pickups so that they're all relatively, so they all work well together.
Right.
Because I don't want a Strat that's super weak and low output, and then a Les Paul or a humbucker guitar that's so high output that I can't use the same rigs. So all my single coils tend to be on the hotter side, and all my humbuckers tend to be on the milder side, so that everything kind of sits in this middle range around a P90.
I'm working on this character. This is on topic because I want to ask you a question as this character.
Okay.
I'm working on this character called Angry Tone Junkie Fan, and it's an amalgamation of all of the insane emails I get. I'm sure you get a lot of these, and today or sometime in the future we should swap stories. Maybe on here about like
the angry tweets. You got to read our angry emails.
Angry, but just it's an amalgamation of sort of all of the things I hear from people that leave me scratching my head. Right. So let me play that character for a minute. And I've started to put skits in the Tone Junkie email. So in my last email, there was a little skit. If you're listening to the podcast or on the video edition, you haven't checked out that skit. It's a great the character's objecting to all the things I'm saying in the email and just telling me to shut up and get to the free profiles that are at the bottom. Anyway, so I'll play that character for a moment.
All right.
Okay. But MBritt, listen, if you make all of your pickups sound the same, how are you really getting authentic telly tones? How are you really getting authentic Strat tones? The vintage Strats don't sound like vintage Les Pauls. So if aren't you just making all your pickups and all your rigs sound the same by requiring that the pickups be working well together,
Yes and no, but I'm not trying to make them all sound the same. I'm trying to make the output level similar. Strats still sound like Strats to me.
Yeah.
Now mine.
Yeah. Do you have a problem getting a telly to sound like a telly?
No,
my problem.
And I've got different tellies. I've got one that has more vintage pickups, and I've got one that has more modern pickups, and I've got Strats that have truly vintage pickups, and they are a little bit weaker, and I would have to do a little tweaking, but it's not major.
Right.
And the problem I always have with a real Strat pickup, bridge pickup, is it's too thin and too shrill. So the set that I got from Duncan, the Antiquity Texas Hots, the bridge is like a really overwhelmed, but it still sounds like somewhere between a Strat and a telly pickup, but it's still Stratty enough that you're never going to confuse it with a humbucker.
When you have an amp in real life, which you play amps all the time, I play amps all the time, how much do you change the EQ? I mean, if you can't, think of an amp that you are familiar with at the moment. How much are you actually changing the EQ guitar to guitar?
Very little, maybe one notch on the bass.
So we're both finding that maybe it's better to get to a tone on the amp that allows us to appreciate the differences in the guitars, but not be so far away from each other that we have to rebuild the rig every time.
Well, and I don't like amps that have too many knobs anyway. I mean, my favorite amps are volume tone or volume bass. I mean, just volume bass and treble.
Right.
And not that I haven't gotten good sounds out of multi-channel amps with all that stuff, but every time you put any EQ knob on, there's basically a filter, either filtering out low end or high end, or changing a mid slope. The more of those things you put on there, the more overlapping curves you're having, and the more dips you're having, the more phase canceling. So it starts being, what's the word I'm looking for? It's
counterproductive.
Counterproductive,
Too many controls,
yeah. So I mean, it's you're getting. God, my brain's not working this morning. I hear beeping.
Very good. On that point, it's
diminishing
okay.
returns.
Only
That's
the
what I was
people
trying to
know
find.
on the
Diminishing returns.
Yeah, totally. On that point, there's been some great sounding Mesa Boogie amps, but I've had Mesa Boogie amps that sound terrible.
Oh yeah.
And then after a day or two, I figure out how this amp works, because it's the controls are so intricate that it's not user friendly at first unless you're familiar with it.
Well, and they're fighting each other,
100%. What does Andy Timmons always do on his Lone Star?
I don't know.
He cranks the bass. He always talks about, I never understand this logic.
Yeah.
People are always asking after the Andy Timmons sound. They love his sound. His sound is a stiletto and a Lone Star with the bass on 10.
Really?
On 10 on the Lone Star. Oh, no, I'm sorry, on 0.
I was about to say on 0.
0. And this is what he says. He has these videos on and he's always like, I love amps that have like so much low end and fullness that I can put the bass on 0. In my head, I'm thinking, why would we love that amp? Why wouldn't you just...
That's the problem. That's the problem I have with many of the Mesa amps. There's too much steady low end.
Yeah, and it's like, what it means is this amp has so much low end, you have to cut it all the way down to get it to the point you want it. Well, what's the point of having control over extra high, low end you don't want? Shouldn't the control be recalibrated?
Well, I've had other amps where you have to turn the treble all the way off, and it's still bright enough, especially if it's got a mid knob.
100%.
It's got all that stuff in it, and if you only turn up the high knob to see what you're getting, it's like this nasty stuff. I'm like, why is that on a knob?
The Lone Star is a good example to me. Both Lone Stars, the EL84 version and the big one, is a really good example of an amp that I think you can dial in some of the worst guitar tones ever created. But it's actually my favorite Mesa amp. Yeah, there's some setting where it's like, this is where this amp
I used to always
great.
have to crank the mids on my Lone Star, but after I did that, it sounded like, that's because it didn't sound. It sounded very flat and not very interesting before.
And then conversely, you get like a vintage Marshall. The EQ really doesn't do that much anyway.
Right.
This sound's going to sound like this. You can affect it a little bit, but there's a core in there.
And Jeff Beck turns all the low end on his Marshalls off, supposedly.
Yeah.
And some of that, too, is the cabinet. If you're playing to a 412, it's going to build up real quick.
Yeah.
I tend to play open back cabs, so...
Yeah.
And for that very reason, I don't like that kind of choked low end sound that I get with closed back cabs.
So... P90s are the greatest pickups ever.
Correct.
We agree. Everybody agrees, really, who has P90s, right?
Right.
Because it really... And I feel, to me...
The second would be Telly pickups. I mean, a good Telly pickup is probably my second favorite.
What about... what after that?
The Stratneck pickup is definitely the next... best tone ever.
Okay, now I have an idea. Let's play a game.
Okay.
This is I want you to rank the contents of a taco as you would order them, and then we're gonna do the same thing with pickups.
Okay.
So here's like the test. Okay. The test is, imagine I take you to just a regular like a taco place.
Okay.
Right. And I say, listen, this place is really good. They're good tacos. And you're like, what should I get? And I'd say everything's good.
All right.
Shrimp, fish, chicken, pork.
I'm a carnitas side of
steak.
Fan,
so yeah, however you want to season the steak. If carnitas is your favorite, it's pork.
Yeah.
Go. What do you order? Top to bottom, first
steak,
to last.
Tacos, cilantro, and onions.
Right. So steak.
Yeah.
What's your next meat? Like rank the meats.
Oh, the meats. Shrimp will be last. I'm not a shrimp fan.
Not a shrimp fan. So steak,
chicken. Well, ground beef. Is ground beef in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, beef. We'll tie that with.
Okay. So beef, chicken, and then carnitas probably.
Beef, chicken, carnitas.
Yeah.
Is fish or above or below shrimp?
It's above shrimp, but not by much. Not a big fish or shrimp taco person.
Have you had the fried avocado tacos at Mojo's?
No.
We should do that. We should try that.
All right.
I'm gonna say carnitas, so pork.
Mm-hmm.
Shrimp and beef are close to me. Maybe chicken, fish.
Yeah.
Okay, now rank pickups. Best pickups that like I can't live without these. To like if I tell you these are the best. Well, how do I do this? Yeah, just.
Well, P90s are the best.
P90s. Okay.
And then my next favorite is that it's a Tom Anderson Telly pickup that I just love. I mean, it's money.
Right.
And then
So say P90s Telly.
And then the Strat pickup neck sound is just so classic that you can't get away from that. And then just a great humbucker, which by great I mean kind of low output, Alnico 4 magnet kind of thing.
So humbuckers last on your list.
Yeah, I'm not a big, huge humbucker fan. For the longest time, I didn't use them at all. Now I found that Les Paul that I love is that Greg Martin Collector's Choice. And those pickups sound so good that it's raised my level of liking for humbuckers. And I've got others that I like, and they're good for gain stuff, but I play so much right on that clean, edge of clean, and it's hard to get a humbucker to have clarity without it being too much clarity, because I've had some that are super clear, but they sound like single coils, and they don't sound like humbuckers.
Right.
So it's fine. It's trying to find that thin line of, sounds like humbucker, but it's not muddy, it's not overly veiled on top, it's not thumpy in the low mids. I'm really picky on humbuckers. You can ask anybody. I've swapped tons of them.
What's your favorite one? Favorite humbucker?
Well, whatever's in my Greg Martin Les Paul is the best sounding humbucker. And it's supposedly its own pickup for that guitar, but it's similar to the custom bucker.
Okay.
I think it has Alnico 3s or 4s in it. But it reads really low on the ohm meter, and yet it's super loud. So I don't know how that happens.
Filtertrons, we didn't even talk about. They weren't on your list.
Yeah.
Below humbuckers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love them if I'm just sitting in a room playing guitar, especially one with a Bigsby and hollow body.
Right.
But anytime I try to use them on stage, they just kind of get lost. I play with a loud drummer and a keyboard player that's got a big, strong left hand, and so it just kind of...
It's funny because Tellys are so high on your list. Well, I mean, those Telly picks are so high on your list.
Yeah.
I think that somewhere there's some similarity would...
I don't think they're that similar.
No? What do you... Elaborate.
Well, to me, they just... the thing I like about Filtertrons is they have that kind of a hollow sound.
Yeah, I find people that like Tellys like Filtertrons, like maybe that's more of a Sunday morning thing.
And I do like it.
But people, yeah.
But I always have to beef it up somehow, either with a clean boost or a compressor setup kind of high. They're a little low on output.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest beef. That's one of the sets, or the Hot Rod has hotter Filtertrons, and that's actually my favorite ones I've tried.
Interesting.
And if we'd ever start playing shows, I think I've done 2 acoustic shows this year, no electric shows. So I'm kind of itching to play and get some of these new guitars out on the road so I can try them. And you may ask me in 2 months, and I say, this Filtertron is the best pickups ever. I just haven't tried them out live yet. I'm
going to say for my ranking, P90s, number 1. And not just like my specific set of P90s because I like the JM Pro ones. Yeah. Although you brought over your JM Pro with the switch magnets. What did you switch the magnets to? They are A5s?
They were. I'm guessing they were A5s because that's typically what goes in there.
Okay, and then
I put 4s in them.
You put 4s. Have you tried anything else?
No. It worked, and so
yours sounded more vintagey than mine.
And that's what I was going for, because my Red Anderson has Alnico 2s, I believe, because they're the Antiquities, which I believe had Alnico 2s. But they're a little on the soft side, so the A4s just kind of bridge that gap a little bit.
So I'm going to say P90s. Then I'm going to say Strats. Like a Strat pick. I really love a good, to me, like one of the things I love about P90s in the neck is I feel like it can sound like one of the fattest Strats you've ever heard. You know what I mean? I mean, it really doesn't sound like a Strat, but it has that thing that I like about Strats. Well, just a single coily thing, right? It's that open, great thing, And then I'm going to say humbuckers, then Tellys. Although I love Tellys, and then I'll put Filtertrons at the bottom.
So because similar. It's just my Tellys is a little bit higher.
And honestly, to me, that's what I like playing. I love the sound of Tellys. I actually think I try sometimes in my live EQ adjustments. I feel like sometimes I'm actually making my guitar sound more Telly-esque than I do. You know what I mean? Like I feel like Tellys actually have the type of sound I want live.
Right.
But I really love a tremolo, and so it keeps me away from really falling in love. I have a great Telly. It was my number 1 guitar for a couple of years when I was doing the pub and club thing. And but then after that, I got really into trems. I got my first Sir with the first 510 bridge, and that's when I really fell in love and started to feel like there's a no compromise tremolo. And now I found lots of guitars and lots of bridges that have it. But before that, I was just playing some Fender stuff that would, I'd get used and stuff, and I didn't really know how to set up a tremolo system, and it'd be, these always go out of tune a little bit, so I'll lock it down, and then you're really not even using it, in my opinion.
We have differing opinions.
We do have differing opinions. Mine are so loose sometimes I just whisper to it and it starts shaking. On a set. I
can yell at mine and they don't
budge. No, yours are down on the body, you know? But hey, that's sort of the classic way of doing it. John Mayer does it that way. Lots of greats do it that way.
I just like the spank that I get from having that really hard bond.
And if you do any double stops and bends and stuff, you really have to have it against the board if you're going to do it. So if you're, at least in that way, you jump from a telly to a Strat, you're going to notice big time if you don't have the thing down.
And that's the thing. And maybe that comes from my love of tellies, that I want my Strats to have that kind of spank that they do.
Yeah.
Which is probably true.
Yeah. Well,
do we have any questions?
I wonder what questions are on the internet right now.
I don't know.
Let's find out.
Where's the boob mug?
Where's the boob mug? It's probably a question. It's upstairs. And
right next to my favorite niece.
Okay, here's one, because we were talking about Helix and HX Stomp stuff. Release date for the MBritt HX Stomp preset pack. When are you going to get it out, man? A lot of people are asking about it. You and me are both talking about that community. It's just like they're asking for more stuff, I feel like. When are you going to get some more stuff out? What's your release date? I know you're working on it.
I am. And actually, I had some stuff come up. I thought it was done. I mean, I pretty much had it all done, have all the files in the folders. So now it's a matter of, you do this, making demo videos or some way to show what the sounds are.
Right.
And that's what I was doing all day yesterday, was trying to make demo videos. And as I was doing that, I'm thinking, maybe I need one more week of tweaking on it.
So what are you planning? Tease the people. How have you done this?
You're limited on 6 blocks.
Right.
So I don't think it's going to be a very effect-heavy pack. It's going to be really basic.
Focused on
I want
amp
people
tones.
just focus on amp tones. And that's the problem I have with that unit, is just there's 20 built-in amps, 25, and some of them I think are better than others. And
right. What's your favorites?
The Mesa Lone Star is my favorite, cleanish. The Plexi Bright's my favorite gainy type amp. There's some other cool stuff. The Matchless is really nice. The Fawn AC is nice. Yeah. I like that one. The PRS Arshan, the new one, it's okay. It's got a good high gain sound. But those are the ones I tend to gravitate towards.
I knew an Arshan in high school.
Did you really? Mm-hmm. Did he make the PRS amp?
No, good basketball player though.
Okay. But I find some of the amp models I just really struggle with to make them sound the way I think is good.
How many? So
I have some with stock cabs. So if you do want to free up that extra block, you can do that. And then I've got some that use my IRs.
Are you using dual IRs on anything?
No, just because you're so limited on blocks.
Yeah.
And then I did some with hardly any effects that is for guys that have a pedal board and they're just wanting to run this as the last thing as an amp. They want to use their pedal board, so really they're all wanting.
I think that's a really popular setup.
I think all they're going to want is amp and reverb, or maybe amp and delay and reverb.
Stereo mono on those? Are you running 2 amps on any of them?
There's one that I'm running 2 amps on.
Right, sure.
And then the other one, there's a couple that I've got on a switch, so you can basically toggle between the Lone Star Clean and a Plexi Dirty.
Yeah,
which is
very cool. And there's going to be IRs with it, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be some of your IRs are going to be in there.
And I'm doing separate ones than all the ones I did before.
Oh, cool. So new IRs.
New IRs, yeah.
That's very cool.
My ears change, or just, I don't know. I can listen to something I did last week and not like it.
It's a different piece of gear. You release those IRs.
Yeah.
And there's been new models have come out for the HX family and Helix since your IRs came out. So,
and every time I shoot new IRs, they sound slightly different, and some may be better 100%. Than others. And, it's just trying to find ones that work.
I shot some free IR specifically for the HX thing, and I felt like I was miking it up and playing the Helix through a power amp going through there. I just set the mics up differently than I normally would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With my Sir Cap, I know where I like putting the mics. I go right there, and then I listen. And 9 times out of 10, I'm right where I want to be. Right. You know what I mean? Same 2 mics. Although lately, I have really started liking the 906 over a 57.
Really?
And I don't know if it's the combination because I've been experimenting with some different pre's.
Yeah.
But
906 is a good mic.
There's a little.
If I had just used 1 mic and not 2, the 906 is my great
exactly.
Choice.
You know what?
Not the 609. No, the 609 is boxy.
Agreed.
Mid-rangey.
Agreed. I had a 609 and returned it. This is like a year ago, though, so I never really A-B'd them together. Mm-hmm. But agreed. Someone just reached out to me and asked, I have 1 mic, or they said I have a $150 budget. I want to get the best mic I can to make profiles of my amp. And I said, you should go get a 906 and you should put it in front of the amp, and then you should listen to it, because you're probably going to find you want a little more bass on the amp to make up for whatever, the 906 isn't going to pick up, just being dynamic and but just EQ it if you can hear the 906 signal by itself. I 100% agree.
Cool.
906 one.
I need to start trying out some new mics and stuff, because I've been using the same stuff forever. I've got 3 different 57s that I kind of rotate between.
Right. They sound different.
They do. I've got one of the old Unidynes with the switch on it and everything.
I think the reason I'm switching is because my favorite 57 doesn't belong to me. It belongs to a buddy, and it was in the studio I was using. And so now that I've been doing stuff here at home in my amp booth that I built, I think I'm just hearing the difference in a couple 57s. Because I really feel like I've only tried like 2 or 3 57s next to each other. Mm-hmm. But between these 3 57s, I feel like they sounded mostly the same except for the low end. It seemed like they were just either fuller sounding or not as full sounding. And I don't know, maybe the high end was different or what, but I just felt like some of them they're not drastically different, but some were like bright and thin. Other ones were like bright and mid-rangey. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're still bright. I mean, still 50-70.
Still have that 2K.
Yeah. I mean, which sounds great in a live mix.
It does. Well, we've heard it for so many years, because it's been the mic that everybody's used to mic guitar amps for so many years.
Right.
It's like a piezo acoustic pickup.
Right.
You've heard them live for so many years. When you get a guitar that doesn't have that, it just has a sound hole pickup, or it's got the expression system.
Yeah, the expression. Yeah.
You're missing something, because your ears are just so used to hearing those certain frequencies.
So, release date on these fabled.
Hopefully next week.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of me getting home from here and doing some more demos.
Well, I'm trying to think when I'm gonna put this audio together.
Gotcha. Sometime soon.
Maybe this week.
1st of March, maybe.
Maybe there we go. That'll be better.
Yeah.
No, a couple of days. Usually 2 or 3 days it takes me to get these up. But
I wish I had another person that would just do that part of the job for me.
The demo stuff?
Yeah, because I feel like people are not wanting to hear me play anymore. I mean, if you look at how many demo clips I've done, and it's all the same 4 licks over and over. My wife even, says, you don't play music. You just make these same licks over and over. They're the same things. So every now and then she'll ask me to play a song. And I'm like, I don't know any songs.
Right.
I know bits of noise.
Man, I think the people who are serious about listening to them, they're going to listen to the tone. They're going to listen to the sound. And the people who aren't serious are going to notice, you know what I mean? But I mean, the players who want the stuff, they're going to do it. And quite honestly, look, I'm just going to call a spade here. You might not share this opinion with me. The stuff we sell, both of us, whether it's Helix, Kemper, is all such a bargain in terms of price.
Yeah.
If a demo's decent, I think for a lot of people, if you like a Lone Star, if you're trying to use an HX Stomp as your rig, it's easier to buy these things and test them out yourself than to wonder for too long.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, if this is your sound all the time, it's like, it's worth whatever the price is going to be. Because they're cheaper than pedals. They're you know what I mean? Like these...
Way cheaper than
way
pedals.
Cheaper. It's like, will this...
2 cups of coffee.
Yeah. Will this Moore pedal used get me good tone? Like, would this fix my things? Like, people would do that without a doubt. So, like, as long as people can hear that it's not, gent metal. Yeah. It's something in their ballpark. They're gonna...
Well, and even when I'm playing those clips and stuff, I'm not thinking about what I'm playing, really.
Right.
I'm thinking of... When I play these chords down at the nut, can I hear every string? Mm-hmm. What's the tonal balance, And then when I'm playing single note stuff, do they have girth to them? Or, do the high strings sound thin? I'm thinking of all those things when I'm playing. I'm not really thinking about what I'm playing half the time. It's just my same 5 licks that I play over and over.
Do you have like a go-to on the Kemper? You use browse mode a lot, right?
Yeah.
And you mostly throw in some effects on the browse mode. So you're mostly using those 4 stomps up there that you're programming in.
Yeah.
Those 4 foot switches, however you do them. What's your go-to right now?
Profile?
Yeah, do you have a go-to, like... Yeah. Or over the past year or 2 years, what's that situation
Well, for the longest time, my go-to was just a clean third power blackface sound.
Yeah. The one in Pack 2? That one?
It's similar, most similar to the one in Pack 1, but it's just a newer profile I did that's not really out on any of the packs.
See, here you go. But do you know what you just did?
Well,
You just see this is. Listen.
But here's the deal: I don't. I feel bad about saying, "Here's another profile of that same amp that you've already bought," but yet this is better. But how can I continue to sell that one?
Right.
And
is
so
it
I don't
better or
just
just different?
What's the difference?
Right.
I mean, it's better to me at that point in time, but I may go back and think, no, this one's better, the original one that I
Someone
liked.
once, before you and I knew each other, this just came back to me. Before you and I knew each other, I remember a while ago someone like telling me like, I have like one of MBritt's personal profiles, ones he hasn't sold. And I remember at that moment thinking, because I get a similar thing. I get people saying, I've had this comment once or twice on Tone Junkie stuff. I have this pack and the profiles you're selling don't sound like the ones in this demo. And I'm always going back to like, what would I have to gain by making a profile that sounds great, doing a demo of it, and then doing like a bait and switch with something else? Why would I give you something that doesn't sound as good? What?
Right.
You're just gonna buy it and be unhappy? How would that make me?
That's what.
So I immediately at that time thought, well, listen, if he didn't put it out, like what would Michael have to gain by making the most awesome profile and going, this is so good, I'm only going to keep it for myself? Because if I put it out, what? Lone Star would get booked less? Like what? Right? Like
right.
What would be the motivation for like having a secret profile that you don't release? But now that you've said this,
it's only because it's amps that I've already profiled and released.
Right,
but
right.
How many times? It's like beating a dead horse.
Now there's going to be rumors. Now it's going to be like, hey,
I've got some and it's mainly the amps that I've kept forever. My Third Power, my 72 Marshall. I've profiled this so many times, trying to beat.
Right.
Then like I'll be on the road and I'll think, man, I wish that one Marshall tone had more mid range in it or whatever. So I'll go home and reprofile it, and it may be 1% different.
Right.
And maybe I'll start using that one, but they're all so similar to the ones in Pack 1.
How much do you feel like when you sit down to profile an amp, it's luck? Like
absolutely.
Today it sounds great.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then other times it's like it's just not quite there, and then another time you try again and it is there.
And I'll profile new amps or whatever, make new profiles, and I'll tell a buddy of mine, hey, I profiled this today, and he'll always ask, are they any good? I always say, I don't know. I really don't until you go back.
You got to go back. It's true.
Because everything sounds good the day that I'm doing it.
Sure.
You know, I'm making it, I'm moving mics, I'm doing everything to make it sound what I think is good for that day. And it's only time will tell if it, that's why it takes me so long to put out stuff, because I second guess myself constantly.
How do you monitor when you're profiling? Like, or is it different? Or and then
always my ear molds, my UE7s.
And then when you go back and dial stuff in, do you use different?
I'll still tweak to those ear molds, but I'll also check on studio monitors. It's like once I get it close to where I think, okay, yeah, they're good.
This sounds right.
Then I'll make a cassette tape and go listen in the car kind of thing when you're doing a mix or whatever. Burn it on a CD and go listen to it on little speakers.
Right.
So that's when I'll plug in my Zytone or put it through my QSC speaker and just kind of test it. And if I don't tweak to those, but I'll play it and I'll go, okay, it's in the ballpark. And then I trust my ears.
Yeah. It's funny because, like what you're saying, you have to, we throw around the terms like FR.
Yeah.
And everything sounds different.
Oh, absolutely.
Every single thing sounds different.
Every pair of studio monitors, every pair of headphones, every FR.
To me, like, I have some headphones. I mean, they're not like studio grade headphones. They're these Audio Technica ones that I sometimes use on the podcast. And then I'll listen.
ATH 50s?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
So I'll listen on there just to hear what it sounds like on something different. But usually not. But usually what I'm using are my HS8s or a Friedman cab or the Mission cab. And so when I dial stuff in, I use that Friedman cab. So as I've been profiling, I've started feeding the Kemper through that Friedman cab. But no matter what I use, before I do anything, I have to sit and listen to past profiles on that thing. Because like, they both sound like a Vox when I put it through the Friedman or when I put it through my monitors. But having it at different heights, there's definitely low end and a bigger speaker. It doesn't matter what studio monitors you get. There's more low end and bigger speakers.
They're not going to sound like a guitar amp.
Right. They're going to sound like a right? I mean, and you can listen to it and go, that sounds like a Vox, but it sounds like a Vox is mic'd up in the next room coming through these speakers.
Right.
So you've always got to just know what
and then
what you're playing through.
Our biggest job is to guess what they're going to be playing these things through. I mean, we don't guess, but I mean, you've got multiple things that you can listen to try to cover most of the bases. I've got the little QSC Q10, K10. But it's just trying to figure out all that stuff is kind of maddening after a while, because you want it to sound good on everything, but you can't. You just cannot make it sound good on everything.
It's true, you can't. Do you ever get that? People saying, I download these, they don't sound the same?
Oh, yeah.
I
don't get it a ton, but it's... Yeah. Because I go out of my way when I'm recording clips. I don't add any EQ on the console. Exactly. I don't add any compression. I don't do anything to it. And as soon as I'm done, I hit save.
Right, that's it.
And then I don't touch it again.
I'm always thinking, too, like... When that, because I don't want to disappoint people and tell them, well, you got to buy my same guitar, because I don't want to. I'm not trying to communicate to them that like the Kemper is such a thing. I think of this thing is like going to break. The Kemper is such a thing that you need to like. I have completely taken my microphone off the table. What is happening?
It's going to be a very large lapel mic you've got.
Okay, I'm just going to talk into it while I fix it. On the video edition, this is going to be very impressive. But basically, no, what I'm noticing is like, I don't want to put out there that like, you have to have the same guitar as the Profiler had. Because I don't think that's true at all. Because you and me are talking about, we're jumping around on different guitars.
Right.
And we're requiring that of the Profile. It's got to sound good on these different, on these different pickups. And so we know they sound good with different stuff, but you can't plug in a very different like piece of gear and expect you can't plug in a very different piece of gear and expect it to sound the exact same. And you can't get a very different like monitoring system, whatever that is, whether that's speaker and stuff. The people I just looked over. Michael Britt is helping me with I don't know what I did. I think I was trying to tighten it and I loosened it.
There.
Is that tightened? There we go.
Success. All right.
We're back in business. What do you do? I just tell people, well, do you want to watch one of these videos where I show you how to make your profile sound better?
Well, I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan wasn't going to use a super high output humbucker.
Mm-hmm.
Marty Stewart's not going to use a super high output humbucker. It's like, it's the style of music, and I think most people know what my playing sounds like, and it's kind of in that half rock, half blues, half country kind of field.
Yeah, it's a lot of halves.
So that's kind of, it's three halves. Maybe a third of each thing. But, that's where my tones live. I don't play super hard rock stuff, but, I also grew up in the 80s. Here's what I noticed. So, like, you're in a different, what's the word? Era, You're a little bit younger than me.
Yeah.
Your hair's not gray. Your beard's not gray yet.
Yeah. I'm actually 52. I just eat a lot of bananas.
Well, we're the same age then. You're stopped up, aren't you? So, your gain level that you love, I saw in your tweaking the thing, is kind of in that 4 range.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Yeah.
And I just grew up in an era that my cleans were cleaner and my dirties were dirtier.
Right.
So I don't live in that 4 range so much as I live in the 2.5 for my cleans, and then the 5 range for my light overdrive stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just the style that you get used to in playing.
It totally is. My favorite sounds are really, for me, my little performance that I put out that I tell people, this is what I use every weekend for Sunday morning stuff. My whole thing is like, when I'm testing out an amp for that purpose for a Sunday morning, I want the neck and the middle to be clean if I play a little bit light, and if I dig in on the bridge, it just starts to overdrive. I really always just want to be on that line, and then on top of that, I like to throw tube screamers on top.
Right.
A lot of people, and this is a totally great way to do it, I'll have a cleaner clean, and then a profile that's more at the gain range of that middle thing I'm talking about with the tube screamer added on top. Yeah. And then if you want the tube screamer sound, just run the gain down, because I actually am running some gain on my tube screamer. And I know, and I've done this, everybody's tried this. You put the gain at 0, you still get that very desirable EQ curve that the tube screamer brings. But it's funny, I've actually been doing more and more, working in a little cleaner clean into my thing, because I am starting to see a bit of the advantage of it. and then jumping over to the sort of profile in the middle with a tube screamer already turned on. And I feel like I'm actually trending.
I got
a little different.
For the longest time, my like mid overdrive sound was around that 5 range in the overdrive on the gain knob. And then at some point last year, I started just using. I think I'd made one song rig, and I just used my regular clean sound, but I added the stomp tube screamer, but only around 55% mix. Gain, about 10 o'clock. And I thought and then I would A/B that with my normal overdrive sound. And believe it or not, the clean with the little stomp screamer sounded bigger. Like the notes sounded bigger, sounded less compressed overall. So towards the last part of last year, I started changing all my live song rigs to kind of use more clean sounds with that screamer added instead of using the mid-gain overdrive. Right. And then I found that Divide by 13 rig during the Christmas tour. And so I use that kind of the same way.
Which divided by?
The LDW.
The Marshall.
It was on my first pack,
Yeah. That Marshall, that's a good amp.
But it's a rectified Marshall, so it sounds different.
Interesting.
I ended up picking up that very exact amp again. I bought it.
Really?
Yeah. Because I fell in love with those profiles, and I was like, I need to see if this amp's around.
Were those the ones that, what was it? You guys were playing with somebody, and the other guitar player was using?
Phil Vassar's guy.
Yeah, Phil Vassar's.
Yeah, Jeff was using that LDW rig, and I was like, why does yours sound bigger than my third power clean? So I switched my third power clean over to that, and I was like, well, there it is. It does sound bigger.
Isn't that amazing? You release so much stuff, you forget how much you like something, and then you come back to it, and it's like, wow.
All the time. Like on the Kemper forum, people will say they love this or that rig. I'm like, I never use those. I need to go back and see. Because, I've made so many that there's no way I can. Because I'll just get on whatever works for me at that point in time.
Yeah. Like, I feel like in my head, there's a couple that always stick out. Like, I like this, but there's the in-between ones you forget about. But when you were doing them, they were exciting. They had something you were into, Right. And it was like, this is great. I'm using this now, and you just forget.
I told you about my little stinky Princeton, right? Did I tell you that story?
The recording amp?
Yeah.
The Princeton recording amp?
Yeah. I just saw it at a Guitar Center for $400. I thought, it's a tube Princeton, for $400. Where are you going to find that? I'll just buy, I won't use all the fancy gadgets on it.
Sure.
And, man, some of those profiles, that thing just profiled really well.
Yeah.
I never know what amp is, because I'll have an amp that I'm super excited about, and I try to profile, and it just fights me, and I get so frustrated.
There's so many things that can make a difference. Tubes can make a difference. The speaker could not be worn in.
And the same thing with that definition thing, because whatever amount of low end is going into the gain circuit, to me, that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
And some amps just fight me on it.
We were about to do some questions, and then somehow we did one and got way off topic, but I think that was useful.
That's unlike us to ramble about useless things.
Yeah, right. Okay. Have you experienced a micro delay when playing through pedals in front of the Kemper?
I don't do that, so
this is I'm going to say this. This is what I've noticed. Sometimes I notice people talk about delay or latency on the Kemper. I've almost always found it's another component. So I have experienced it on my computer when I'm doing too much. I am delaying. I will experience some latency.
Right.
But I've never not been able to get rid of it by freeing up space, by whatever, or by looking and realizing, oh, my processor's like completely clocked right now.
Right.
And you and I know that going front of, like, you plug into an FR cab and we don't perceive any latency. So it's not in the Kemper. Micro delay in pedals, to answer the question, unless it's a digital one, the amount of delay or the latency, there's always latency present in everything.
If there's any audio to digital or digital audio converters, you're going to get latency.
Yeah.
'Cause it has to do the math.
And so, but the question is it like significant enough for you to even notice or hear it?
Right.
Because there's a level there that you're not going to perceive. And that's what those converters are all going for.
Right.
So in general, high quality ones are you're never, no latency. Well, no latency means almost no latency.
Right. 1 to 2 milliseconds, 3 milliseconds maybe.
And I mean, really, theoretically, there's latency going into a tube amp because electricity has to travel.
Right.
And that's what the signal is. So that's an amount of latency we don't perceive there's latency or something.
And I forget how many feet is a millisecond. But,
sure.
It's depending on how far you are. There's latency if you've got a 20-foot cord and you're that far away.
No, we know that because what happens if you put a mic further back and another one closer up?
Millimeters.
Yeah. You've got now canceling because they're hearing the sound at different times. So unless it's a digital pedal, no.
There may be some just because there's converters in the Kemper, but I don't know why it would be different unless you.
Why would it be different if there's pedals or no pedals in front?
The thing I have noticed with running pedals into the Kemper is, since the Kemper has built-in leveling features in it, some gain pedals will hit that leveling, and so they will sound more compressed.
Sure.
Than if it's just analog amp.
Yeah, there's definitely because we've talked about this disconnecting volume and gain. Well, that means there's limiting happening on the really gainy ones. They've been evened out.
Right.
So can you push them up? You can, but with the master volume or with something.
Right.
I always tell people if you're running into that, take a dirtier profile, clean it up a bit, and turn it up, and you should get more headroom.
And I haven't played with the sensitivity on the input since to see if that changes either.
So some people find Stu G found this. He was just telling me about this. I know there's a couple people on some of the Kemper groups that have found this. Running the clean sense around -3 or so, they say helps. Now, what Kemper says the clean sense does is not an input sensitivity, right? But people are saying that helps. What do we think the clean sense does?
I haven't figured it out yet.
So Kemper says that it's like a sub volume that controls the clean profiles and can bring them up or down in volume compared to distorted profiles. Okay, what it actually is doing, I'm not sure. But what that means is when you actually go to use it, if you increase your clean sense, very clean stuff will increase in volume. The middle stuff changes a little bit, and the dirtier the profile, you eventually get to a point where you're not hearing any difference by moving that clean sense. So somehow it's controlling the profiles differently. You know what I mean? Like the cleaner the profile, the greater the effect.
And it's getting louder, you think, by turning up the sensitivity?
And that's their ideas. If you want your cleans louder or not as loud, because some players might want their cleans less loud, and so let's do that globally on the whole Kemper is the idea. Distortion sense is same thing, but for the distorted side. How can we control how distorted these distorted profiles are?
Right.
And they say that control is useful for if you've got a Les Paul and it drives a profile hard, and then you pick up a Tele and it doesn't drive it hard. If you want those two guitars to drive the same amount, turn up the distortion sense. Well, that's one use of it.
Right.
But what if you turn the distortion sense down? What's weird is when you turn it down, it's not like there's more difference between a Tele and a Les Paul now. Just the level of the distortion seems to be changing.
Right.
So whatever the Kemper's doing, they've like broken up clean and dirty, and they're like, I guess they're controlling level or how they're mixed together or what. So it's very confusing. But all that to say, some people say that they're having good luck adjusting the clean sense for the purpose of.
So I have thought about using the clean sense because I noticed some of my mid-gain rigs around the 5 or so. Sometimes I'll go to those and they'll seem to be it'll feel like the volume has dropped from my clean sense.
Yeah.
So if I turn the clean sense down, that should. I'm going to try that in this next.
It's supposed to,
yeah.
Or some people are saying it does.
Okay.
I for a while told people, no, don't use the clean sense.
I haven't touched them. I'm still like straight up. So
yeah, I told people not to use it, and that's not what it's for. And then people started telling me, here's what I did, and I feel like it helped.
Gotcha.
The other workaround, I think I might have told you. I don't remember if I told you this. The other workaround some people have told me works. I haven't really tried it. Is running a loop in slot A, and then using the return of that loop as your input. So don't go into the input of the Kemper. Put a loop in slot A, and where you would go out and in as that stereo loop in slot A, or the mono loop in slot A, come in through there. And when you turn that volume up on the loop, what happens is that's the Kemper's boosting the send, but padding the return. So if you just come in, you're actually putting a pad. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so some people are saying having that pad helps them slam the Kemper with pedals and not but that's more for clipping on the input.
Right.
But but you can't. I don't think you can use the tuner when you do that. And I mean, it makes sense, but my question is just tonally, is that different than just turning down the signal going into the Kemper somehow?
Right.
Maybe you can't do that if it's a pedal that doesn't have a master. I don't know. I'm not running into these problems sometimes that people complain about.
And like some of this stuff, I mean, we're pretty smart and we tweak all this stuff all the time.
Right.
Every now and then, like I was working on the Helix this week and I got into the input section, and you can choose the impedance of the input. I'm like,
I don't know what this is supposed to be.
I mean, I can put it on auto, but I actually like it over here and I don't even know why. It's like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't want to know all this stuff. Mm-hmm. At some point, I still want to be a guitar player.
Right.
And I just want to plug in and turn a few knobs as possible.
Yeah. What is
Yeah.
Where's the Marshall sound?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the Fox?
And like you were talking about the Tube Screamer. Yes, I could figure out where I want the high and low cuts of this Tube Screamer module, but just give me something that sounds like a Tube Screamer.
Do you use any high-low cuts on the Kemper? This question's been coming up a lot. No. Yeah, me neither.
I use it on other things, like the Helix. I think it's really helpful on.
Yeah.
Probably the Fractal too. I mean, and I probably used them on the Atomic, but the Kemper, I don't feel like I ever need that because it's my input that I'm putting into it, so I'm already trying to balance those things.
When you play live compared to the profiles that you produce and release, is there any normal EQ adjustments that you make? Like, do you find yourself lowering the bass a little bit for live stuff, or no?
This is probably so not what you're supposed to do, but sometimes I'll just turn every EQ knob up one light.
Right.
And it sounds better. I can put it back. I'm like, it sounds kind of flat.
Sure.
Just adding those one little bits of all that little stuff. I mean, I'm talking less than a dB probably of each one.
Right.
But it kind of makes a more lively feeling to me.
Yeah. I mean, whatever those things are tuned to, they just sound good going up. I usually cut a little bit of bass playing live, but I'm using just really live. I almost only play the AC30 profiles lately myself. So maybe this isn't true for all stuff, but I tend to just, as a rule of thumb, live, I feel like I need less low end than I did when I was by myself, and I could hear the full frequency of the guitar. So I guess that's a little bit of a low cut, but
if anything, I don't usually cut lows, but I'll add mids more than anything, especially on Marshall-y sounds or something like that.
It's fun. You and me talked about how much we liked the mid control one time, and in that video I did a couple days ago, how to dial in the profile. I turned up the mid control, and in the room, I turned it up like really aggressively, and I was like, this is pretty aggressive, but it's fine. Then when I was listening to it back, I was like, that sounds so good. I should play it higher. You know what I mean? Like, maybe psychologically, I'm just afraid to turn it because I don't want it to look ridiculous or something. But it's like that's too much. But then I'm listening back. I'm like, that Strat sounds crazy good on the neck pickup with a Marshall, and me adding that like neck, that just sounded killer. A
lot of my lead sounds, like when I go to my Marshall lead sounds, or like I've got some Bogner ones that I use. Yeah. That mid range is pretty healthy crank, couple dB.
I feel like if I want a lead sound, sometimes I'll add a Tube Screamer, but sometimes I'll just take whatever my heavy rhythm sound or whatever is, go up one profile, go up one gain, degree or whatever, the next profile, and then just turn the mids up. Yeah. And it's just all of a sudden single notes are where I want them to be. Yeah. Feels like the same amount of gain kind of, but with just a little more. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. What music inspires you guys when you're in a musical rut? We mentioned Jack.
Jack's good. Guthrie's awesome. Big Wreck is my favorite.
You're a big Thornley fan.
Yeah, Ian Thornley. They've got a new song out this week called Locomotive, or last week, whenever it came out. He's just phenomenal. Yeah. I still get into ruts because it's so hard to listen to music because it's either stuff that I've heard a million times because I'm such a music lover. I've listened to the stuff that I like so much. Mm-hmm. Or if it's new stuff, I really have a hard time finding a lot of new music that I love. Yeah. And I'm a sucker for, cheap pop, Weezer. I think it's fun to listen to.
Have you heard the new Covers record?
Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
I know. It's good and bad at the same time. I mean, I read a whole thing about how them covering Africa was actually a bad thing, and I don't disagree with the points that the guy was making.
What were they? What were the points?
That they basically watered down what was super quality musicianship because they're just copying it. They're basically making a Xerox of it. Right. They didn't do anything new to it. They didn't, and I can see their points. Yes, but in their own way, they're probably paying homage to it because there are note for note, ripping it.
That was the one they released first, right?
Yeah.
And then they did the whole record after that because it got so popular.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's cool that they can play all those songs. If I was in a band and I had the opportunity to play Africa and all those other cool stuff that they did, I mean, I would not do it.
To me, it's like they do the things note for note. It's not like these are different versions. These are straight up covers. This is like if Weezer decided to be a cover band and decided to start playing some cover shows.
Oh, yeah.
This is the stuff people want to hear. And they did No Scrubs, TLC. I thought that was very good. But to me, it's like it may be note for note, but it doesn't sound as dated as I think the stuff from the 80s sounds right now.
Yeah.
Because pop music right now is borrowing so much from the 80s.
Right.
But it's not the same. There's elements that are carbon copied, but there's still a lot of other elements that are not carbon copied. It's still the 80s put through today's filter.
And I think it's on a grid, which makes it a little less feel,
Yeah, right. That's true.
I mean, Porcaro didn't play on the grid most of the time. He didn't play to click. I mean, did you see the video that shows how it was like a real-time running calibration or what the tempo was on that song?
No.
And so it's like going up and down little bits here and there, pushing and pulling, but that's it. You would never know it just listening to it.
Right.
But when things get on Pro Tools and get on a grid, everything's very
sterile.
Stable. It does kind of sterilize it a little bit.
I just enjoy the record, and I'm not. And here's the thing.
Oh, I do too. I mean, I love that last record, the Pacific Daydream. That was a great record.
Every Weezer record is great, and the real Weezer fans, because they always hate the last record.
Oh yeah,
and they talk about the previous ones. Mm-hmm. I remember, of course, everybody loved Blue. Everybody loved Pinkerton.
So I didn't even get into them back then. I've only gotten into them recently, so I'm a recent convert.
I got into them with Green, which was in the late 90s. And I remember thinking Green was so great. And through Green, I discovered, and that was like, Green was like Hash Pipe and Going Surfing. And
did you see the Saturday Night Live skit about this?
No.
Okay, go
Wait,
look it up.
About what?
Did you really not see it?
No.
There's a whole Matt Damon Saturday Night Live skit about Weezer. And it's exactly what you said. Old Weezer fans hate the new stuff. New Weezer fans hate.
Is this? Oh, I have to see this.
It's exactly what you're describing.
See, I'll tell you how I figured this out. Because, like I'm saying, I got into Green.
Just look up SNL Weezer on YouTube.
I'll look it up.
Yeah,
I got into Green, discovered Blue. Blue and Green to me were very similar records. You could hear a band was in different spots, but pop-wise, they're great singable melodies with these other elements in there. And then Pinkerton sat to me as an album so totally different. But I got into Pinkerton. I started really enjoying this. And what I noticed is people were always talking, Green's not as good as Blue, Green's not as good as Blue. Fast forward, a couple records come out, maybe later. By the time Make Believe was out, which was fairly recent. I mean, this was like, that was maybe 06, 07, 08. I don't know. Make Believe is out. They're doing even more poppy. They're more pop driven. And I would hear people comment like, why doesn't Weezer get back to Blue, Green, Pinkerton, and then whatever, I forget the record that was after Green. But they were thinking, and I was like, no, we hated those, right? I thought I was supposed to hate Green. I felt bad. And then I was like, I'm watching, and yeah, it's exactly.
So they're just like a few albums behind in their evolution.
Yeah. Whatever Weezer does today isn't as good as what they used to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. But I think everything Weezer does is great. I really have never disliked.
I've only recently gotten into them. I listened to Alt Nation in my car on Sirius, and they play a lot of Weezer. Killers, I love that last Wonderful, Wonderful album. It's one of the best new albums I've heard in a while.
I don't think I've heard that, but I used to be into the Killers.
And it's got Mark Knopfler playing on a song.
Oh, really?
It's every song. You can almost say, this song reminds me of Simple Minds. This song reminds me of whatever.
Yeah.
You can tell where their influences came from on this record. Right. It's really cool. Huh. And then before that, I'm trying to think of all the records that kind of got me out of ruts. That Magic, the first Magic record, the one with Rude on it. That whole record is amazing.
Yeah. Who's like the most inspirational guitar player that when you listen to them, you're like, I wouldn't even think of that?
No, Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
I mean, I just watched a video this morning of him playing something, Brush with the Blues or something like that. Oh my. I mean, just The note selection he does, never mind the whole pulling in and out of notes, with the bar and all that.
He makes his guitar sound like a half-drunk blues singer in the best way possible.
Half-drunk sax player.
Right. Well, yes.
I mean, it's crazy. He's doing this stuff that Charlie Christian would do. It's like you can tell his brain's somewhere else on a different planet, like trying to figure out where to go.
Yeah.
And I'm just, I don't know.
Yeah.
While I'm trying to figure out what I should play, he's like thinking, what if I did this? What if I did this?
Right.
And just going for it.
Right.
But effortlessly. Like, I don't know. And some of the stuff is kind of just the chromatic, slide up, you down. I could give, crap about that. Sure. But some of his note selection is just amazing.
To me, there's like a place where people go where it's almost like there's just so much more emotion in it than melody theory, whatever. You know what I mean? Whether and all the sloppiness or whatever just sort of works together. I feel like vocally Robert Plant gets there in a lot of the live stuff. I feel Jimmy Page definitely gets there in just the sloppiness of his thing. But Jeff Beck is he's making that thing sing like it's a person.
It is.
Like there's emotion in the guitar.
So many different timbres he gets out of it, by the way he plays with his thumb or uses the volume knob. It's just, he gets more tone out of a couple little Pro Juniors or whatever he's using.
Right.
It's crazy.
Jimi Hendrix had said that he believed, I don't know if this is an accurate quote, but I've heard him attributed as saying that he believed he had explored the tonal capability of the guitar in his playing. And Hendrix gets all sorts of different sounds. But if you think of when he said that, effects were not in the same place. Amps were not in the same place.
Pedals hadn't even started coming out.
Really
the Fuzz Face,
yeah,
brand new. The Maestro, pedals and stuff.
I wonder if that was someone's opinion in the 60s, if they would listen through music of the past 40 years and go, I wasn't even close. I wasn't even close. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't. We weren't even scratching the surface. So Jeff Beck, who else?
I don't know why John Mayer gets bagged on by everybody, but dude's a good player. I mean,
you heard his latest single?
I liked his very first pop album or whatever. Not the
Room for
Room
Squares.
for Squares.
Yeah.
Such great playing on it.
Yeah.
I mean, if that was my first real album to ever play on, I would stop.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that good now.
That's why John's a genius, though. He's reinvented himself 4 times.
Oh yeah.
He's on the guy. People hate on John Mayer. He's Madonna level. He's he's Beyonce. Yeah. He's white people's Beyonce. You know what I mean? Like I'm sorry. That doesn't sound not like Beyonce is all of our Beyonce. But if you're like I'm trying to think, like if you're like white sorority chick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? John Mayer has because I think think today, if you're 35, right? If you're John's age, when you were in college, Room for Squares made you swoon. Later, he reinvents himself. He makes the guitar and blues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's aging with his fans in a way that he's staying so relevant. Even his Montana stuff. Do you remember when he went insane and went to Montana and started wearing big hats?
That was my favorite record. Is
Born and Raised.
I love that record. I listened to that over and over.
The little submarine song.
It's amazing.
It's so good. Queen of California. What was the next one he did? He did 2.
Yeah, I didn't have that.
Born and Raised, and there's another one he did. I can't remember.
I think I bought the one right after that, and I didn't like it as much. But it may just because I wasn't as familiar with the songs. I listened to Born and Raised front to back so much.
Right.
It's like if I'm going to chill out right before bed. I mean, Queen of California is the best song for that.
What's the submarine one in there? The Man with the Submarine. It's about the guy who builds a submarine and goes for a little.
Walt Grace's Submarine Ride.
Yes. It's so.
Yeah.
Honestly, some of those songs
it's one of the best songs I've ever heard.
I know.
I love that song.
I don't know how. I don't know. And what's funny is
Didn't it make you tear up? I mean, I was playing it for my kids, and we got to the last hole, the keyboard pads under it. It's just amazing. And
it's like a you know what it reminds me of like a Shel Silverstein kids book. It's that touching. You know, you ever read those with your kids and stuff?
And Chris Bodie played the trumpet on it, which I met Chris before when he played for Sting and stuff.
Wow.
So it's I have a great affinity for that album.
Yeah.
That's one of the best ones.
That's so funny. I didn't know you even liked that record, but I love it. And I love that Mayer has and
the songs are folky. They're truly about telling a story, and they all have that kind of folky kind of cadence to them where they're...
I think what's great about that record is the record's not about John. and all his music had been about John. Room for Squares is about being a struggling musician trying to find yourself.
Right.
You know, I am driving up 85 in the type of morning that lasts all afternoon. You know, like it's 100%. Yeah, totally. He's talking about all the stuff he would do. I remember he tells a story like, I used to go to Atlanta and play here in this like cafe, and then I would go here and go there, you know, and literally I took exit 85 to get there. I'd drive 4 hours, do the thing. And all the music's about John. Then his music gets very egocentric, right? It becomes, I'm connecting with music that I think is beautiful. Like he starts playing with double treble. That's like his flirting with the blues. He forms a John Mayer trio. It's all about like, and then he wins a couple Grammys and stuff, right? Well, he wins the Grammys with Continuum, but it becomes egocentric. His whole career is egocentric until he has like a sort of a personality crisis.
Right.
And he talks about it now. He talks about, I was self-absorbed. He gives it all up. He just runs away. He realizes, I don't really love who I am right now. He goes to Montana and then all of a sudden comes out a little bit crazy. He's wearing weird clothes, big hat.
Or horse blankets.
Yeah. And then he's like, and I think what it makes that record is like, he's going through a process of like, I've been egocentric and not everything's about me. Like the world's not about me. And so his music stops being about himself and it's beautiful.
It's still about himself, but it's not from the same perspective.
Yeah.
Like Whiskey is just very kind of like just spilling it out there, you know. Like,
but I feel like they're the stories about people.
Yeah.
Rather than just like.
Well, Walt Grace is that's totally just.
Right.
I don't know where that came from out of his head. It made me go like Google it, see if it really happened. It was so realistic in the song.
Isn't like, I work with these songwriters and on like the business side of their thing. And I used to do a little bit of writing. I wrote a little bit when I came to Nashville, and then I realized I'm not really like 100% into this. You know what I mean? But you know, you're good. You come up with melodies. You do stuff. You know what I mean? Whiskey, water, repeat. Is that not the most genius way to say? I'm in a spiral and I can't get out.
Absolutely.
To say like, it's the most romantic way to say, I have a drinking problem. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's the words of a poet. To just be like, I'm just stuck.
It's very Dylan-esque, that whole record.
It's so Dylan-esque.
And the whole Olivia, you know, something.
Yeah. Something about Olivia.
Just clever little, you know, it's not his girl, but he still loves her. He wants something like that.
Right.
I don't know. It's a great record.
Right.
It's one of my favorites.
See, but like I feel like you compare that with the guy's always been a wordsmith. You know what I mean? He's got this one song talking about sitting at a table. He's about to ask a girl out, and he describes playing chess with the salt and pepper shakers. You know, and it's like but yeah, you're right. I feel like the guy bears a soul in his music. Have you heard his latest single that just came out? Because he's not really releasing albums. He's sort of releasing albums in pieces until they're a whole album and calling them an album.
Gotcha.
But he just came out with another tune, and Instagram's been going crazy because, one, he does this little tapping riff all the time now where he bends the note, taps it, which is an old trick.
Right.
But John puts it on Instagram and it's a genius. He has a Saturday night show on Instagram where he just is, people are tuning in. I mean, the guy has, his Instagram's on fire. Every Saturday night is doing, I forget what it's called now. You can always catch it on his channel, but he's playing an old Epi 335, an old Epi 330, Casino, like an ES 330 Casino type guitar, and he's just making it sing.
Yeah,
he's playing. I went and copied the riffs. I learned the riffs, and I'm just like, how does he make it sound like that though?
Yeah, it's
so like nuanced. It's the simplest couple little riffs. They're just so deep in the pocket. They're just so emotional.
Speaking of deep in the pocket, no.
Yeah.
He gets a lot of bad rep and stuff, kind of like Nickelback, but his music...
They're not number 3 of bands that inspire you, are they?
No, but I've heard... I've got some Nickelback albums that I just flat love.
Really?
They bring out my 18-year-old, 17-year-old kid in me.
Yeah.
Just rocking. That Dark Horse album that Mutt Lange produced.
Yeah.
Kind of suspect songs, where they're little bit titillating and kind of just childish, but man, production on it is so good.
Really, yeah.
Oh yeah, have you not heard that record?
I don't think I've gone too close to that. I mean, I've heard the big Nickelback stuff.
Yeah,
but I've never really sat down with their music.
Just listen to that album just one day, just for quality.
You're gonna take some flack in the comments for this.
Oh, I will.
It's you guys.
I mean, when the song "You Look So Much Better with Something in Your Mouth," I mean, it's not a high quality. We're not talking John Mayer poetry.
Yes. Right. I know what you mean.
But it hits that 18-year-old kid that just wants to just. And the cool thing about his singing, I mean, he's not the best singer in the world.
Sure. But
to do that, and I don't know if you know, but he doubles everything. Everything's harmonized, but it's so he's so gravelly. It sounds like one voice. Sounds like he's one of those Tibetan monks that sings multiple notes. But I don't know, it's just really well done.
I'm pretty sure people are gonna put look at this photograph.
They're gonna hate Nickelback
in the comments.
I don't love all Nickelback. Don't get me wrong. I just don't want to bag on people if they're putting some decent quality stuff.
So the next pack is the Chad Kroeger signature pack, Kemper pack,
John Mayer,
with a something.
Trying to hit all the haters in the world. Who else can
with a something about Olivia performance built in? Right?
Did you ever see that video? The YouTube video. It's this guy that uses his kids' toy drums and stuff to play Saturday Night Fever, but as a metal version.
No, I haven't seen that.
So he's got this like little toy drum kit. He's doing that. He's whatever these guitars, but he's truly a talented singer and player. Right. But yeah, he does Staying Alive in a metal version on his kids' toy instruments, and it is fantastic. That'll inspire you.
I should, in a similar vein, I do really enjoy Tiny Desk Concerts, which is a series on that NPR puts out. There's a bunch of great performances over the years. I mean, you kind of it's really artist dependent, but it's a great format of like, let's bring a band in and they'll play in the office. And what made me think of that is that Wilco comes in, and I think they play on like a little toy drum set, like a little mini. And it's
kind of like the Jimmy Fallon, with school instruments and stuff like that. Those are always, that one with Adele was a fantastic.
Yeah,
I remember the Jimmy Fallon and the Roots doing that one.
Did you see Jack Black doing a saxophone on Jimmy Fallon?
No.
It's a kid's saxophone that has like a thing programmed in,
right?
And he starts like playing it, and then he runs over, and the Roots join him. It's so, you press it, and it's like.
That's funny.
Anyway,
I'm gonna get some flames for Nickelback and John Mayer.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Not many people know that Born and Raised out.
No,
I love that thing.
You have to be a Mayer fan. I'm a big John Mayer fan. I really, there's no music he's put out that I don't like.
I wasn't a huge fan of the trio stuff. I mean, because I love Pino Palladino and the drummer Steve Jordan, amazing. Yeah. And I love the stuff Steve Jordan did with Los Lonely Boys. Great stuff. But I just wasn't a fan of that music. And I'm a huge Pino fan from all his other stuff he's done.
Yeah, Pino's incredible. Steve Jordan, the guy can play the most simple beat and make it just sound just like such a groove. I don't even know how.
And his snare drum always sounds like a wicker basket. It's just so warm and just kind of cozy. It's just.
I think to me the trio stuff is like a great. I'd love to see John do the trio now because I think it would kick butt of what the real trio stuff was.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that was, even the tour he did. So I saw him live, Fillmore, San Francisco, with just the trio. And then after that, he did Where the Light Is, which was him doing acoustic stuff up front with Robbie McIntosh doing a bunch of great slide stuff.
Yeah.
Then he would do a set with the trio. Then he would do the full band set. And it was a little indulgent.
Yeah.
But to me, the trio stuff got better and better until there wasn't a trio anymore. And I feel like as a musician, I'd love to see him get into that now. Luckily, it seems like if we've learned anything from like Eric Johnson and Jeff Beck and these other guys, John's probably going to hit the age here. Because what is he, 38? No, he might be 40. I don't know what he is. John's at the age where we're definitely gonna get some sort of Hendrix thing coming out. There's something that happens to like musicians at a certain age, right, where they almost go into like a full like Hendrix is God. I'm paying homage, and I'm doing the whole thing. And
he had his flirting on Continuum with the Jeff Beck tremolo stuff. He did a little bit of that, and now he's in the Grateful Dead world, playing all the Jerry Garcia stuff. There
was some stuff he did. He did some Trem stuff that was very Beck after Continuum 2. Remember when he had that what was that song about Jennifer Aniston?
Oh, the Jessica Simpson one. I thought the Heartbreak Warfare.
That was what I meant.
That's the one with That's the Jeff Becky kind of.
What's that record called? That was after Continuum, wasn't it?
It's not on Continuum.
It was right after that.
Oh, okay. See, I get it.
What was that record?
I kind of stopped.
There's a record in between. Yeah, there's 2 records I can remember the name of. That one. It wasn't called Heartbreak Warfare. The song is, but I was thinking maybe the record was called that too. Anyway, it's not like we don't have all information at our fingertips. We really could.
I'm not going to look.
Anyway, people are going to go. People are going to say that the Junkie Podcast is now a John Mayer podcast, exactly. John Mayer fan show. If you don't like John Mayer, like I've said this on other episodes of the podcast, there's some music you're allowed to not like.
Yeah. And
there's some music where if you make fun of it too much, it's okay to say you don't like it. But if you say it's bad music, I lose respect for your opinion of music.
Right.
So what was that band? So who just won some like Grammys or something, and
I didn't watch the show.
People were like, no, they suck or something.
Oh, was it the brothers, the Greta Van Fleet?
That was it.
Yeah.
To me, if you listen to Greta Van Fleet and you say they suck, I just say, no, you suck. They don't suck. You don't have to like them. You don't have to like that they...
I don't like them.
You don't like them?
I saw him on Saturday Night Live, and that was the first I've ever heard of him.
Right.
And I could not get over the lead singer's voice. And the band's fine. Right. I mean, the music doesn't bother me at all. To me, that voice is just so annoying to me.
You don't like it?
I couldn't do it.
Do you think in a different time they would have fit right in?
No, because I still think it's derivative. I don't feel like it's truly soulful like Robert Plant.
Right. It's true. I mean, it is truly derivative. And what I love about them is they're playful about it. Like, did you see the interview they took all that flack for? No. And they were like, we've never heard of Robert Plant?
No.
I mean, it was obviously a joke, and people ran around like they were really trying to pretend that they had never heard. But their whole thing is like, obviously they're our number one influence. Like, obviously we are huge Zeppelin fans.
Right.
And it's totally throwback. All the clothing is throwback. It's
just the voice. I mean, and that's the one reason I wasn't on the Weezer bandwagon earlier. I just didn't feel like his singing was right there. Even the Killers guy is a very bizarre singer.
Right.
As he gets older, they kind of blossom into their styles a little bit.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, Weezer's fun. It's not a band I expect a lot from vocally, but for some reason that doesn't bother me. You know what I mean?
The newer stuff is definitely more vocal-centered.
Right.
It's not just creep.
So I saw them live with the Foo Fighters in Oakland, California. They did a co-headlining tour where they swapped every night who was last and who was first. And in the middle of that, Rivers comes out and does some acoustic songs on a little stage in the middle of the stadium while the big stage is back here. He comes out and does it. People surround him on all sides. Mm-hmm. And I still to this day don't know if this was intentional, but while he's up there playing, some woman was on stage doing this weird interpretive dance all around him, and he stoically stared forward and pretended she wasn't there. And I, at one point, was like saying to my wife, you're seeing this, right? There's a woman up there dancing around, insane. She would get in his face, go around him, dance all around, do all this insane interpretive dance, and he never even acknowledged her.
Huh.
At first, and somewhere in there I thought, I'm either watching him try to ignore this person because she's not supposed to be on stage, and for some reason security doesn't know that, and now it's gotten into this weird thing where they think this is part of the show, or this was some weird thing. It was never acknowledged. Huh. It was never said who she was, where she came from. No jokes about it. So bizarre.
That is art. That's what they call art.
It's Kaufman-esque.
Yeah.
I'll never tell you the punchline. It might only be funny to me. Right. You know what I mean? But it's a real audience of one type of thing. Yeah. I'm laughing on the inside.
That's funny.
Very weird stuff. Anyway, do you think he plays a Kemper?
He does.
I don't think so. I don't know. Does he?
I don't know.
I think I saw his guitar player had a Kemper at one point, but I don't know if they've ever played it live or what.
Gotcha.
But he has played some Diesels and stuff. He's had some interesting amps over the years. Some really interesting stuff. But
I like his nerdiness.
Yeah. He has a really interesting story. Grew up in a Buddhist ashram, discovered Kiss at like 12 years old, and wasn't really sure if he was looking at superheroes or demons or rock stars. But when he tells a story, it's like it didn't matter. It was all one thing. Gene Simmons was all those things to him. A superhero, a demon, and a rock star. And so he describes like not only did like later it got him into music, and he's like the biggest Ace Frehley fan. But he's like that was
my childhood, man. When I was in 6th grade, Destroyer just came out.
Yeah.
Detroit Rock City. I mean, it was the biggest thing in the world.
He tells a story of like before he even learned how to play guitar, he would play Kiss, like pretend to be Kiss. And it was just as much about like slaying dragons as a Kiss person as it was about playing the guitar. Like
That's funny.
The guitar was just something that Kiss walked around with. They could also fly.
Yeah.
You know, like very interesting stuff.
Interesting.
Well, give us a temper tip to close out, or a tone tip to close out this Tone Junkie podcast.
You covered the storing your presets and stuff.
I did do that in a video.
That was good. I've told lots of people about that kind of stuff.
I
still feel like there's little things that we're still learning about the Kemper.
Right.
How to do it. Those storing presets and stuff. The difference in type and browse, when you're going through the effects, you can store your own presets of delays or whatever.
Of anything, yeah. And pretty soon, with that new rig manager, we're going to be able to send presets around. Yeah, because one of the things that stinks is I've got a bunch of presets saved that I then put into some profiles. But when I give the profile to somebody, they have to go save that effect again as a preset on their machine. There's no way for me to give them that preset right now.
Yep.
And it'd be great if I could say, check out this delay that you know what I mean, that I dialed in or whatever. It just makes it easy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm trying to think what else. Do you ever swap cabs?
I have. It can be very useful, but it's a rabbit hole for sure.
It is a rabbit hole.
Diminishing returns.
To me, all IR things are. But every now and then you'll stumble on a cab that's like, oh, that works on this one and this one. But, yeah.
I think people are going to get more into that once this new cabinet IR thing is there.
Yeah.
It's going to get people turning that button, that knob.
What is your thoughts on the direct and merged profiles?
I have heard people say that merged makes it sound different than the studio profile did before, and that it's supposed to be a merged profile should theoretically sound exactly like the studio profile when you have the cab on, right?
Right.
And taking the direct and applying it and merging them together should only give the Kemper the correct line to draw, the correct frequencies to say this is the cab and this is not.
Right.
But I've heard people say, no, the merged ones end up sounding different than the studio ones. I haven't really tested it. I've merged a couple profiles, but I haven't tried to really test them against each other afterwards. So I go like this. My thing is, studio profiles are all I really care about. I put in direct profiles because I understand some people want them. To me, it's like choose one or the other. I like the idea of merge profiles, but to me, it's like the difference that I hear between a direct profile and a studio profile that I cut out the cab is like just consistently there's more brightness. The cab doesn't cut out as much high end as a real guitar cabinet.
Right.
So I'm just hearing extra brightness left in. And to me, that can be remedied. So I feel like I'm getting good tone by just defeating the cab and sometimes using direct profiles into my Sir cabinet.
Yeah.
The disadvantage of direct is that we have no idea what speaker they're using.
Right.
And so sometimes I take them and I plug it into a cabinet with golds and I'm like, this doesn't sound good. I have the treble way too high, but it's because I'm using a speaker that has a very rolled off high end.
I think the difference is more dramatic on gain profiles. Like when I defeat the cab in a clean profile, it's not as different from the merged as that. So yeah, I think it has more of an effect on gainy stuff. And if you're only listening to your cab, then yeah, I can see the usefulness of it. But and I've compared merged with studio profiles on my Pro Tools. I put a looper in and recorded the same thing twice, and the WAV files look identical, or as close to it as you can. But when I'm playing them, I do feel or hear a difference, and I don't know if it's all subconscious and it's not really there, or if it's truly a difference.
You feel like the merge loses something?
I feel like it adds low end and loses a little bit of the compression, which may not be a bad thing if you're thinking all the gain sounds sound more compressed. Right. I think that's possible. I think maybe it is slightly more compressed.
Whenever I hear people say the gain sounds more compressed, I always think turn it up.
Make it louder.
You know what I mean?
You're hitting a wall somewhere. It could be in your speaker.
Right. Yeah, And I mean, just turn it up. Do you have it as loud as your tube amp would be? You don't. Well, you probably don't. So,
right. So you're
probably perceiving less dynamics.
Right.
You're perceiving them, but they could be there.
Yeah.
They are more compressed. I mean, I don't know. It depends on everything. Yeah, that's an issue. I've really thought about doing merge stuff, but
it's just so much extra work.
It is a lot of extra work, and it's diminishing returns.
I agree.
I don't know how many people are using them that way. But
if I did more, and I try to do them on my higher gain profiles, like that crank and go pack, I did put some of those in there.
Do you ever use direct mix at all and stuff?
Never.
I've put them in. So I started putting them in because, not really on my normal stuff, but Stu G really, there were a couple of profiles where we felt like it worked best was we were running his kilt pedal, which is a JHS pedal. It's Stu's signature pedal, and it's basically an X Pandora with like a switch or two added. I think there's some differences, but it's very much an X Pandora. And he, when we profiled it, he liked adding in the direct mix to those fuzzy sort of quality profiles, and he liked sort of some of the defined character of the pick attack that it put back in.
Interesting.
But I think I did a video on the direct mix, and I tried to show how it worked. And one of the comments was, "So in a nutshell, this doesn't really do anything, and we can ignore it." I was like, "Well, okay. It's the last time I do a video on the direct mix."
I don't feel so bad about not using direct mix now. I use clarity on like my mid gain stuff. I find if I turn the clarity up about halfway, I kind of like that sound.
Yeah. And that's one of those knobs that's hard to describe what's happening.
Yeah, it's not just better. A clean note it's adding, but it's somehow pushing. It's making it clearer.
Right.
You're taking clean note, and it has something to do with the way they've separated gain from volume.
Right.
They're able to take the clean portion of that sound and turn it up a little bit,
and add the. It almost sounds like maybe some of the cleaner part of the high end comes through, and not the low end.
Right.
Or something. All right. Well, this has been fun. I've been HW.
Michael Britt.
Wait, what's so funny?
I feel like we've been talking for 2 hours on just random stuff.
We have talked for an hour 42 on random stuff.
Do people really listen to this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people.
Hi, guys. You're hearing my stomach growl like crazy.
There are dozens of... no. All right. I've been HW. Thanks so much for listening. HW out.
Britt out.